What is going on? How is everybody doing today? Hope everybody's having a good week. It is the weekend finally. We are going to figure out who wins the Heisman Trophy here in a few minutes. But over in Happy Valley, ever since Penn State hired Matt Campbell, there have been some questions as to who will be the quarterback next year, day one. So there's two candidates that I think could potentially and probably will be the quarterback. And we're going to go over them. And the first one is Ethan Grunkemeyer. We're going to keep this short, simple, not go too in depth, just run through it. Because I just want to name the candidates and I don't want to waste anybody's time. That's it. So the first one is Ethan Grunkemeyer. So this is a guy who, when Drew Aller went down, Ethan Grunkemeyer came in. You saw that start against Iowa. Seemed pretty rough. A lot of people were already calling for a transfer quarterback. As he went on, got more reps, Ethan Grunkemeyer looked very, very good. I think this kid has a very high ceiling. And I'll just go ahead and say it. I think this is a guy that Penn State and Matt Campbell need to try and keep around. Because, first off, he was a former four-star by 24/7 Sports, came in, committed to James Franklin, got onto Penn State. But now, since Matt Campbell came in, there are some rumors about this guy right here, Rocco Becht, entering and entering the transfer portal from Iowa State and joining Penn State. But first off, let's go back to Ethan Grunkemeyer and look at some of his numbers from last year. So last year is small sample size. Like I said, didn't get a full season. He got maybe a little under half a season. So 1,079 passing yards, 6 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Now don't look at those 4 interceptions and automatically judge it. Two of those interceptions came in his first ever start against Iowa, was tough, rugged, physical defense in your first ever start as a redshirt freshman in Grunkemeyer. Also with an Andy Koldenicki offense that is not using you to your strengths. Andy Koldenicki is now gone. So let me say this. From the eye test, Ethan Grunkemeyer connected great on the deep ball. You have more receiver production with when Andy Koldenicki started opening up the offense, throwing the deep ball. Ethan Grunkemeyer had more success. He looked more comfortable out there. Now you have an offensive coordinator coming over from Iowa State who is going to let you throw the deep ball. That's what they did at Iowa State. They throw the ball deep, and that's where Grunkemeyer succeeds the most, in my opinion. That's my opinion. I think his ceiling's very high. Like I said, he's still very young, redshirt freshman, going into his redshirt sophomore year. I think you try and keep him around. Like I said many times, I think he has a very high ceiling. If you look at some of his numbers, yes, his numbers don't jump off the board, but go back to what I said about this Andy Koldenicki offense. No Penn State quarterback has ever had numbers that jumped off the board under Andy Koldenicki. Even Drew Aller. Even Drew Aller during his good years never had the stats jump off the board. Really in any James Franklin ran offense. Look back at Sean Clifford. He never had numbers jump off the board like that. I think Krongmeyer, I think this kid's very good. And like I said, for your Matt Campbell, if you don't want to go out and get your former quarterback, definitely keep him around. I don't think you have to necessarily hit the portal because I think you have a starting quarterback with a very high ceiling right here. That's all I'm going to say on that. The next one, like I said, Rocco Becht. So this is Matt Campbell's quarterback from Iowa State. There have been rumors already that Rocco Becht may be entering the transfer portal. He's exploring some options for his future, which most likely seems to be him hitting the transfer portal. If he does hit the portal, the likely destination is Penn State. So let's look at what Matt Campbell's done so far. He's bringing in Iowa State recruits. I know multiple Iowa State recruits from that recruiting class have decommitted or gotten out of their um, offers and stuff to, I guess, flip to Penn State. Penn State's crystal balled for a few of those Iowa State commits already. A few have already entered the transfer portal. We don't know if they're going to end up in Happy Valley yet, but most likely they will. I think a lot of these guys are going to be following Matt Campbell. And also, if you look at what Matt Campbell's done with the staff, most of this Penn State staff is cleared out, and it is now seems to be the full Iowa State staff. That's what it seems like. He's brought in the offensive coordinator, the O-line coach, defensive coordinator, the general manager, everything. He is bringing over the entire Iowa State crew. Wouldn't surprise me if he brings over the quarterback now. So let's look at some of Rocco Becht's numbers from last year. So in his tenure, also he started the year out very strong last year. 3 picks against BYU did really hurt him. That deflated his numbers more. But on the season, he had 2,584 passing yards, 16 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Like I said, 3 of those interceptions came against BYU. 2 of those interceptions came against TCU. So there were a little bit of turnover issues down the stretch. He is entering the final year of eligibility next year. So it is very intriguing as to if Rocco Becht does come over to Penn State. Will Grunkemeyer just be willing to sit out one more year, even after he's played almost half a season? Will he be willing to do that? I personally, if I had to say right here, I would personally stick with Grunkemeyer, but I know it's going to be tough for Matt Campbell to move on from his quarterback, who's been a guy who's been his quarterback for a little while now. I understand. But if you go watch the tape on Ethan Grunkemeyer for Matt Campbell, I think you have to give the kid a shot. But I do think it will be one of these two guys for Penn State next year. So, like I said, not too in depth. We're just going to run through that super quick. I know I ranted a lot about Ethan Grunkemeyer, but I just think the kid's a good quarterback. I think he has a high ceiling. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. And I also think Rocco Becht's a good quarterback. I'm not even going to lie. I've watched him. The numbers don't show what the eye test does. I think Rocco Becht's a good quarterback. Again, another guy with a good deep ball. But yeah, I'd try and keep Ethan Grunkemeyer. That's my opinion. Wouldn't be mad at whatever they do though, because you've already flipped Peyton Calzone from um, Auburn. I believe he was committed to Auburn. He was a former Penn State commit, flipped to Auburn, back to Penn State. Terry Smith got him back to Penn State. So you do have Peyton Falzone coming in. Yeah, it's going to be one of these two. That's all I know. So I know I rambled a lot, but if you did enjoy that, please drop a subscribe if you are willing to. There's going to be a lot more Penn State content on this channel coming very soon. I'm actually about to film a video breaking down all the staff that Matt Campbell is bringing in and go more in depth on that. So, yeah, if you're looking forward to that, then drop a subscribe, turn on the notification bell. And I hope everybody has a good one and happy holidays to everybody. Peace.